Oh boy, it seems like we have another situation in the Hoyoverse voice actor kind of drama. Now, obviously I haven't covered this in a little bit of a while, but now there is even more information, which, obviously I just had to make a video about this. It's another voice actor's take on the union situation that is going on, and well, it doesn't help a lot of the kind of voice actors that have been going kind of crazy over on TikTok and Twitter lately. Now, there has been a lot of other kind of crash outs that have been going on over on Blue Sky, which again, I'm getting a little bit bored of covering constantly because, although it is incredibly funny, it does kind of get a little bit worrying at the amount that they are kind of crashing out over online. But pretty much we have a response from this voice actor named Megan Shipman. If you don't know, Megan Shipman is a voice actor, I'm pretty sure, in Honkai Star Rail, voicing Huohuo. I think she was the new voice actor for Huohuo. And she is a massive, massive voice actor. Like, I'm talking ginormous. She voices, for example here, Anya in Spy Family. Again, very, very big role there. La Brava in My Hero Academia. Also, like Sasha in Attack on Titan. And so many more. You probably recognize her from a lot of different works. Now, obviously, yeah, this gives them the credibility whenever it comes to working with studios and just being involved in the voice acting space. They're not just some nobody who didn't manage to get that big job that they wanted to, so they're now just kind of tweeting on Blue Sky or whatever because they're kind of salty about that or whatever. This is a accomplished voice actor who knows about the space, and pretty much she puts out this tweet, which a lot of people are talking about, saying, "What if I said that years ago, instead of getting a Taft-Hartley for a union project and helping me gain eligibility, the union told me the team to not, the union told the team to not do that and replace me for a union actor because there supposedly weren't enough union actors. Like I said, I got paid for my session, so it was whatever, and I'm grateful for the projects that I have gotten a Taft-Hartley from. But it's stuff like this that makes me kind of balk when people say Taft-Hartleys are so easy to do. These convos are so nuanced, I feel like people generally leave out a lot of the conversation here on social media just to push their side. That's not how you educate and create a better space for actors to thrive in. Now, I do think there's two sides that you could take from this. I do think, obviously, there's one that maybe she is suggesting that it might be easier to kind of join a union because then you don't have to sign Taft-Hartleys, which again, if you don't know, Joe Sieja, I'm sorry if I pronounced that name wrong, the voice actor who created that long video talking about it, mentioned, what Taft-Hartleys are, and he brought up a really good example of the fact that it's essentially like a little 60-day pass of like, hey, you can work on this union project while being non-union, and sometimes it has clauses in there which says that you have to join the union afterwards. Sometimes it doesn't, and obviously that's how you get a lot of non-union voice actors joining in on union projects. Now, as Megan says here, she was replaced by a union actor because, again, there wasn't enough union actors apparently, and obviously a lot of people can take that as, SAG-AFTRA or whoever the union were is pretty horrible in the fact that they're taking away, a lot of these jobs for people and replacing them with union actors, which I do think is definitely a massive concern, and it's, horrible that, that is even happening in the first place. Now, some people might also take it as the fact that she's just saying it's easier to join a union due to the fact of you don't have to do any of this, and you can be that, union voice actor that replaces the non-union voice actor, which I do think, is totally fine as well. But I do think, it's just weird, because it doesn't really help out SAG-AFTRA in any way here. I feel like, it is almost against them because it's pretty much saying that they are taking jobs away from these non-union voice actors just purely for the fact that they are non-union and that they have been, signing Taft-Hartley acts to get involved in these projects, which, yeah, obviously they do go in with a little bit of a risk whenever it comes to, doing that. So I do understand, maybe there is a risk to it, but at the same time, it just seems super scummy to me. Now, obviously, yeah, a lot of people, whenever it comes to Taft-Hartley stuff, do say it's super nuanced, and people can forget a lot of stuff, and even voice actors themselves don't understand it fully, which I think is a definite valid point. Now, obviously, this person as well also follows up on it. Another Hoyoverse voice actor, they're called Natalie Van Sistine, and they voice in they voice Saval in Honkai Star Rail, and they also voice in some other stuff, for example, like Star and Stripe in My Hero, and Your Forger in Spy Family. So again, very, very big voice actor too, following up on this, saying, in the absolute best of faith, is there anyone at SAG we can talk to about these experiences? I was ghosted during the Taft-Hartley process on a major game, and I've heard this has happened to others before. We support and are excited to join the union, which I think is incredibly sad because obviously they are being bullied into kind of joining this, And, you know, obviously they're saying they're excited to join the union, but the only reason they're excited to join the union is because it's much harder for them to get work outside of the union. And that kind of shows you how terrible it is at the moment. Now, obviously, yeah, they're saying that, you know, they've been ghosted and things like that due to SAG-AFTRA, which doesn't make them look any better. And I feel like it does make them look worse. I think that's how people are taking it at the moment. Now, they're saying a lot of folks, I think, mean very well when they say Taft-Hartleys are easy to acquire, but it can be very confusing when we're told we're welcome and it's easy, and then turns out it may not be. I think a lot of us would like to share, but when I've tried in the past, I've been greeted with hostility and didn't think this feedback had a place. I again want to stand by SAG, but the lack of specifics make this confusing and scary. I'm eager to try and help mend that, which I think is great. Obviously, they say, you know, these stories are the only two I've ever heard where Taft didn't go through. This is coming from Sam Slade. I'm pretty sure they're also a voice actor for Topaz, who's been quite heavily involved in this stuff too. Yeah, they voiced Topaz. They also voiced Armby, I'm pretty sure, from Xenosun Zero. So again, another pretty big voice actor kind of commenting on this, saying that, yeah, I truly thank you both for sharing. We don't know what goes on until people speak up. Up until now, I was given the impression that almost every Taft-Hartley was a formality and an automatic green light, which again just isn't the case at all. And I think that's how a lot of the other voice actors are thinking about this, which I think is terrible that this is even happening in the first place. So again, I do think, honestly, it's a pretty, like, kind of stinky situation at the moment due to the fact of SAG-AFTRA pretty much just kicking these people out or ghosting them or not replying to them due to the fact, you know, that they want to sign a Taft-Hartley or whatever, which I think is kind of crazy. Obviously, let's look at r/Genshin Impact, who also shared these screenshots. They said, found this interesting, not 100% sure on the VA's SAG status, but wonder if calling out a few people. They say, oh, more tea has been spilled. They say the tea's always been spilled on SAG's own website. So again, they're just kind of exposing even more stuff. They say, yeah, the Taft-Hartley has always been a conditional waiver. They require you to have available, not a magic spell that forces the union to go back off for a month just because you said the words. People just pretend the union granted 100% of them because admitting otherwise kills the entire argument. So again, I think a lot of people are kind of, yeah, they're trying to get across the point that, oh, Taft-Hartleys are super easy to, you know, do, and people can join union projects whenever they want, when that just isn't the case. And a lot of these people are now exposing this over on Twitter, which I honestly think is great. They say the actual problem was all the VAs downplaying it. You just need to fill out one form, super simple, don't look into it, which again, I do think is very, very harmful. Obviously, you know, one of the quotes there is from Joe from that video as well, saying don't look into it. I feel like don't look into it is a very bad statement whenever you're doing an informational video. I feel like saying look into it is the main thing you should be saying because you want people to understand it more. You know, obviously, maybe you can't provide that information in your video, but maybe you should say, hey, you know, if you want to find out more, go look it up and form your own opinion about it. But again, you know, they're not going to say that because they're trying to downplay it quite a bit. They say there will also be certain levels of confirmation bias as well. Perhaps none of them have ever got into trouble getting one or something like that, which again could be true. It could be the fact that Taft-Hartleys have always worked for them and their friends, which could be the case. But again, they keep on saying like union VA, non-union VAs can keep working. They just need a Taft-Hartley and they can join the union, the guild. We don't want to give that person a Taft-Hartley, replace them. Which again, they say the whole prove why they're better than union VAs clause told me everything, lol. It's utter, you know. And they say prove they are better than union VAs. They didn't join you, flawless victory. Yeah, this is exactly why I rolled my eyes at the mention of Taft-Hartleys, and is why it's not in Hoyo's favor at all to sign the dumb agreement that removes their abilities to choose who they want voicing, which I do think, yeah, obviously a lot of people are not happy with this. A lot of this information has kind of stirred up the community even more into, you know, what could be a pretty terrible situation in general for a lot of the voice actors, and it seems like even more stuff is coming out about this, you know? I thought that all of this stuff was going to end in like a week, whenever I made my first ever video on this kind of drama. But again, it keeps on going, it keeps on happening, and it's pretty terrible to see. You know, the voice actors are being pretty heavily affected by a lot of the stuff that is going on, and it doesn't seem like there is going to be a change, and a lot of them are coming out with even more information like this, which changes up the entire situation as a whole and how we view this, because obviously there's a lot of voice actors out there on Blue Sky, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, wherever, telling us one thing, but it seems like it's all another thing. Obviously, there's a person like even further below saying, to be clear, she's the new voice of Hoyo and Honkai Star Rail, replacing Corley Lynn, but more importantly, she's the VA behind Anya in Spike's Family, someone from Overlord, La Brava in My Hero, Naomi and Darling in the Franxx. You know, they voice some very, very popular characters and say this woman is in more high-profile anime than any of these hacks, include insulting the scabs. They say, oof, that's a heavy list. I can basically guarantee you can look up at IMDb and see more even heavy-hitting anime. She's not usually the main character, but she's in so many major anime that the sheer quantity is deserving of respect. And they say, damn, that's a lot of popular roles. I think I forgot who the sage was from Goblin Slayer. Again, you know, this is a popular voice actor, so the opinion of this, I feel like, is like important. I feel like a lot of people should listen to what Megan Shipman has to say due to the fact of her being a popular voice actor. And the same with Natalie as well, who's also talked about this kind of stuff. They say the fact that your job security is hanging by a thin thread on if, and then some VA dude says, just trust us, bro, which again, I do think is kind of crazy. They say, what, you mean the guild has to grant permission to non-members to work and not contribute to the guild's earnings due to being non-members? Would reject a non-member's request and instead demand a guild VA who does contribute to the guild earning to be paid in that position? No way. Why would they do that? No way. It's almost like there's a conflict of interest or something. Wow, I'm glad that we're only just discovering that now, and that no one ever in the history of this work refusal debate ever mentioned this conflict of interest and was never shut down by the lying VAs who said the rejections would never happen. So again, I think that is pretty crazy. So again, that is pretty much the whole situation that we know. That is every single kind of chime in from all of the voice actors at the moment. That's 3 new voice actors getting involved in this. Obviously, go and support them. I feel like, you know, they seem to be on a pretty good side of things at the moment. So, you know, it doesn't seem like they are trying to be, you know, like a Karina or something like that, who are going pretty crazy and kind of like crashing out over on Twitter and places like that. They're trying to be a bit more sensible about it and just talk about it, which I think is a much better way to go about it, and it's less hostile, which, you know, obviously people can talk about it, but, you know, it's less hostile, less people attacking, less, you know, drama, which I think is a much better way. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this. Do you think that, you know, this is some pretty important information? Do you think that this changes a lot of things that goes on with this situation? Or maybe not, because again, I'm just super interested in what you guys think. But yeah, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Go to GameStop, use my code CASA, get 10% off. And yeah, pretty crazy situation, but I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.